Imagine a corporate empire built entirely on a single phrase, Avon calling. For over a century, those two words didn't just sell lipstick and perfume. They unlocked the front doors of millions of homes worldwide, creating a multi-billion-dollar beauty juggernaut that seemed completely bulletproof. But in late 2024, the final shocking curtain fell when Avon Products Inc. officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy under a mountain of debt and devastating lawsuits. How did the world's most dominant pioneer of direct-to-consumer sales, a company that practically invented modern networking, completely collapse? Stick around until the very end of this video, because we are going to break down the tragic missteps, the toxic legal battles, and the crucial strategic lessons every modern brand must learn to survive. Long before social media algorithms and beauty influencers controlled what we put on our faces, Avon was the original social network. It was founded all the way back in 1886 by David H. McConnell, a traveling book salesman who realized a fascinating truth. His female customers were far more interested in the free perfume samples he gave away than the books he was actually trying to sell. Recognizing an untapped goldmine, McConnell pivoted, building a business model that bypassed retail stores entirely. He empowered everyday women to become independent sales representatives, earning commissions by selling directly to their friends, neighbors, and communities. It was a revolutionary business masterstroke for its time, turning suburban living rooms into highly profitable retail hubs. For decades, this approach worked flawlessly, transforming Avon into a cultural touchstone and a dominant global powerhouse. The Avon Lady became an iconic symbol of female financial independence and trusted, personalized consumer care. By the latter half of the 20th century, the company's pink catalogs were practically a staple in every single household across America and beyond. Yet, the very mechanism that drove this spectacular rise, the deeply personal, physical, door-to-door sales model, would ultimately become the rigid anchor that dragged the legendary cosmetic giant down when the world rapidly shifted online. To truly understand the scale of Avon's ultimate downfall, we have to look closely at the peak of its golden age. During the mid to late 20th century, the company wasn't just a cosmetics brand, it was an absolute cultural phenomenon. The Avon Lady wasn't a faceless corporate employee, she was your next-door neighbor, your sister, or your closest friend. This brilliant strategy tapped into a powerful psychological truth: people buy from people they know, like, and trust. Avon masterfully turned social capital into actual financial capital, creating an army of hundreds of thousands of motivated independent women who carried the brand directly into the heart of suburban communities worldwide. This direct selling model was particularly revolutionary because it offered women a rare path to genuine financial independence in an era when their career options were heavily restricted. Long before the modern gig economy or corporate diversity initiatives became mainstream buzzwords, Avon was actively giving housewives, mothers, and working-class women the freedom to run their own flexible, home-based businesses. The company incentivized its massive workforce with elegant reward ceremonies, luxury trips, and iconic merit pins. This deep-seated emotional loyalty made the sales force incredibly resilient, turning the biannual Avon catalog into an eagerly anticipated event in millions of households. Financially, this model meant Avon enjoyed staggering profit margins. Because they didn't have to pay for expensive brick-and-mortar storefronts, prime retail real estate, or a traditional salaried sales staff, they could reinvest their massive cash flows into rapid global expansion. By the 1990s, Avon had successfully marched into international markets, exploding in popularity across Latin America, Europe, and Asia. The brand had achieved what many corporations only dream of: absolute ubiquity. However, this massive global success bred a dangerous sense of corporate complacency, blinding executives to a massive digital storm gathering right on the horizon. As the 21st century dawned, a massive cultural shift began to quietly reshape how humanity shopped. The rise of the internet ushered in the e-commerce revolution, spearheaded by emerging giants like Amazon and the rapid digitalization of traditional retail brands. Suddenly, consumers no longer had to wait for a scheduled visit from a neighbor or leaf through a paper catalog to buy their favorite makeup. With just a few clicks, cosmetics could be ordered online and delivered straight to their doorstep in a matter of days. For a company whose entire identity and infrastructure were hardwired into physical, face-to-face relationships, this digital frontier posed an existential threat. Avon's leadership found themselves trapped in a classic innovator's dilemma. They recognized that online shopping was the future, but they were deeply terrified of cannibalizing their existing business model. If Avon set up a seamless, direct online storefront where anyone could buy products instantly, what would happen to the millions of independent Avon ladies who relied on commissions from those exact sales? Out of fear of alienating and angering their incredibly loyal sales force, the company hesitated. They failed to build a robust, centralized digital platform, choosing instead to protect an analog system that was rapidly growing obsolete in a high-speed world. While Avon hesitated, agile new competitors sprinted ahead. Direct-to-consumer beauty brands began popping up overnight, leveraging social media platforms to market directly to a new generation of buyers without needing a single door-to-door sales representative. At the same time, traditional beauty retailers like Sephora and Ulta transformed their physical stores into immersive, experiential playgrounds. Modern consumers began demanding instant gratification, trend-driven products, and digital-first convenience. Because Avon stayed anchored to its traditional, slow-moving catalog cycle, it slowly began losing its grip on the younger demographic, setting the stage for a dramatic loss of relevance. As the years rolled on, Avon faced another quiet but devastating crisis. Its core customer base and sales force were rapidly aging. The generations that had welcomed the Avon Lady into their homes with open arms were growing older, and the brand was failing to attract younger generations. Millennials and Gen Z shoppers didn't look to neighborhood catalogs for beauty advice. They looked to YouTube tutorials, Instagram, and TikTok. To these younger consumers, Avon was increasingly viewed as grandma's makeup brand, outdated, unexciting, and heavily out of touch with modern, fast-paced beauty trends. Desperate to shed this dated image, the company launched several aggressive rebranding campaigns. They poured millions of dollars into sleek advertisements, signed high-profile celebrity endorsements, and launched sub-brands aimed squarely at a younger, trendier demographic. However, these efforts ran into a wall of confusion. Avon found itself trapped in a massive identity crisis. If they swung too far toward high-fashion, youth-centric marketing, they risked alienating the older, intensely loyal representatives who kept the company afloat. But if they stayed completely traditional, they would eventually run out of customers entirely. This strategic paralysis meant that Avon's massive workforce began to steadily shrink. Recruiting new independent sales representatives became harder than ever before. With the explosive growth of the gig economy, offering flexible, immediate income through platforms like Uber, DoorDash, or Etsy, younger people looking for side hustles bypassed direct-selling cosmetics entirely. Why spend weeks pounding the pavement or badgering friends to buy mascara from a catalog when you could make money instantly with an app? The fundamental pillar of Avon's entire empire was rapidly crumbling from the bottom up. As internal pressures mounted, Avon's corporate leadership made a radical decision to salvage the sinking ship. They split the company in two. In 2016, Avon parted ways with its core North American business, selling a majority stake to a private equity firm. The domestic business became a separate entity, while the international arm, Avon Products Inc. (API), focused heavily on overseas markets. This massive corporate division was meant to streamline operations and unlock hidden value, but instead, it created immense operational friction and fractured a globally unified brand image, leaving consumers and representatives highly confused. The international strategy initially seemed like a brilliant lifeline. Markets across Latin America, particularly in Brazil, had embraced direct selling with immense enthusiasm. In these developing regions, where traditional retail infrastructure was lacking in rural areas, the Avon Lady model still thrived beautifully. However, managing a massive, decentralized global supply chain across dozens of different countries brought an absolute nightmare of logistical hurdles, fluctuating currency values, and complex local regulations. The profits generated overseas were constantly dragged down by the soaring administrative costs of keeping a massive global network alive. To make matters worse, the corporate split completely starved the brand of unified innovation. While competitors were spending heavily on central global research and development to launch viral, cutting-edge ingredients, Avon's divided resources meant its product formulations began to lag behind. The brand found itself constantly playing catch-up, mimicking trends rather than creating them. By fracturing its core structure, Avon hadn't solved its underlying problems. It had simply spread them across the globe, leaving both entities highly vulnerable to the oncoming financial storm. As Avon struggled to find its footing in the digital age, it ran headfirst into a massive cultural backlash against the direct selling industry. Over the years, the line between traditional direct sales and controversial multi-level marketing (MLM) schemes became heavily blurred in the public eye. While Avon always prioritized the actual retail sale of its products to real consumers, the rising internet culture began group labeling all network marketing companies under a single highly toxic banner. The internet became flooded with exposés, documentaries, and social media commentary blasting MLMs for predatory recruitment practices. This intense cultural stigma made it incredibly difficult for Avon to recruit a new generation of sales representatives. To younger consumers, the idea of messaging old high school friends or family members to pitch products felt deeply cringeworthy, manipulative, and socially toxic. The brand's reliance on recruitment-based growth models became a massive PR liability. Instead of being viewed as an inspiring symbol of female empowerment and financial independence, as it had been in the 1950s, network marketing was now increasingly viewed online as a financial trap. While smaller, highly agile direct-to-consumer beauty brands were building massive communities through organic viral TikToks and authentic user reviews, Avon's brand reputation remained deeply tangled in this industry-wide skepticism. Even when the company formulated high-quality, award-winning skincare lines, the average consumer couldn't separate the product from the controversial business model used to distribute it. Avon's unique sales structure, which had once been its greatest competitive superpower, had officially transformed into a massive reputational anchor. While Avon was desperately fighting for market share and struggling to rebuild its reputation, a massive legal catastrophe was quietly brewing behind the scenes. For decades, one of the most fundamental ingredients used across the global cosmetics industry, and heavily featured in Avon's iconic body powders and makeup products, was talc. However, serious health concerns began to explode worldwide as waves of scientific studies and high-profile lawsuits alleged that cosmetic talc could be contaminated with asbestos, a highly toxic, carcinogenic mineral known to cause deadly ovarian cancer and mesothelioma. Suddenly, the cosmetic giant wasn't just dealing with falling sales, it was facing an absolute tidal wave of devastating lawsuits. Hundreds, and eventually thousands, of personal injury claims were filed by consumers who alleged that using Avon's talc-based products for decades had caused them to develop life-threatening cancers. The legal battle quickly turned into a multi-million-dollar nightmare. Even though Avon consistently defended the safety of its products, the sheer cost of hiring elite defense teams, managing endless litigation, and paying out massive settlements began to completely drain the company's cash reserves. This legal crisis created a massive, insurmountable financial black hole. Unlike a normal business downturn where a company can simply cut its marketing budget or downsize its staff to save money, the legal liabilities from talc litigation were completely unpredictable and grew larger with every passing month. Avon Products Inc. found itself spending staggering amounts of money just to fight the legal battles, leaving absolutely nothing left over to invest in digital infrastructure, modern product formulation, or desperately needed global marketing campaigns. By the early 2020s, Avon's financial foundation was completely fractured. The toxic combination of declining global sales, a shrinking workforce, and relentless talc litigation expenses forced the international entity, Avon Products Inc. API, to rely heavily on massive corporate borrowing just to keep its daily operations alive. This dynamic created a devastating financial trap. The company was taking on mountains of high-interest debt, not to fund future growth or innovative product lines, but simply to pay off old loans and cover its soaring legal defense fees. The situation grew even more perilous when Brazilian cosmetics powerhouse Natura & Co. stepped in to acquire Avon Products Inc. in an all-stock transaction. While the acquisition was initially hailed as a brilliant strategic move that would create the world's fourth-largest pure-play beauty group, integrating Avon's massive, deeply troubled global network proved to be an uphill battle. Natura found itself inheriting a complex maze of international liabilities and an outdated operational model that required billions of dollars in restructuring costs just to keep afloat in a highly competitive market. As global inflation surged and supply chain disruptions escalated worldwide, the interest rates on Avon's massive debt stack began to climb. The company's credit rating was repeatedly downgraded by major financial agencies, making any future borrowing prohibitively expensive. The executive team found themselves entirely out of options. Every single dollar of revenue brought in by the hard work of the remaining sales representatives was instantly consumed by the crushing weight of debt servicing, leaving the iconic brand completely paralyzed and unable to compete. The tipping point finally arrived in late 2024. Overwhelmed by more than $1 billion in total debt and facing over 300 individual lawsuits linking its talc products to cancer, Avon Products Inc., API, the holding company for Avon's non-US operations, officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in Delaware. The announcement sent shockwaves through the global beauty industry, signaling the symbolic end of an era for a direct-selling giant that had once seemed entirely invincible. It is crucial to understand that this bankruptcy filing did not mean Avon vanished from the earth overnight. Because of the previous corporate splits, Avon's domestic operations within the United States, which are owned by an entirely separate entity, were completely unaffected by the filing. Furthermore, Avon's international operating businesses outside the US continued to run open for business, allowing representatives in Latin America, Europe, and Africa to keep selling products. However, the restructuring process meant the brand's parent company, Natura & Co., had to step in with $43 million in debtor-in-possession financing to keep operations stable while stripping away the toxic liabilities. Ultimately, Chapter 11 was the only survival mechanism left to untangle the company from its past. It allowed the international business to pause the compounding legal onslaught and isolate the devastating talc liabilities from its core operating assets. But while the legal maneuver saved the brand from immediate liquidation, the bankruptcy declaration inflicted a massive, near-fatal blow to its consumer reputation. The proud pioneer that had spent over a century building a legacy of trust and community empowerment was now officially defined in the modern news cycle by financial insolvency and toxic litigation. The epic rise and devastating fall of Avon offers a powerful masterclass in business strategy for the modern era. The first and most critical lesson is that no business model is permanently safe from disruption. Avon's core superpower, its massive face-to-face direct sales network, turned into its ultimate weakness because the company prioritized protecting its traditional infrastructure rather than boldly innovating. In a fast-paced digital economy, complacency is a slow corporate death sentence. Brands must always be willing to disrupt themselves, embrace new technologies, and meet consumers where they choose to shop, even if it means completely changing legacy operations. The second vital lesson centers on impeccable supply chain management and product safety. The catastrophic talc litigation that ultimately pushed Avon into bankruptcy highlights the massive long-term financial liabilities that can hide within product formulations. Modern consumers demand absolute transparency, clean ingredients, and rigorous safety standards. Finally, Avon's struggle proves that relevance is a brand's most valuable currency. Failing to evolve alongside changing demographics and allowing a brand image to grow outdated will slowly erode even the most loyal customer base over time. Lessons learned summary. Adapt or perish. Blind loyalty to an outdated business model, out of fear of disrupting your current income streams, will always open the door for agile digital-first competitors to take over the market. The power of omnichannel. Modern brands cannot rely on a single sales avenue. Success requires a seamless blend of e-commerce, digital marketing, and authentic physical experiences. Reputation and safety are everything. Product safety liabilities can form a financial black hole capable of sinking a multi-billion-dollar empire decades after the products were originally manufactured. Generational evolution. A brand must continuously reinvent its marketing and identity to capture younger demographics without entirely abandoning the core values that made it successful in the first place. Thank you so much for watching our deep dive into the collapse of Avon. If you found this corporate breakdown informative and entertaining, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel right now. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss out on any of our future business histories, strategy breakdowns, and deep dives. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Did you or your family ever buy from an Avon Lady? See you in the next video.